Okay, so here's how to play Caitlyn in Season 14. Caitlyn as a champion has always been, and always will be, defined by her early game prowess. Her massive auto-attack range allows you to dictate the pace of the lane phase with ease, and especially in Season 14, this bot lane agency goes a long way. If you know how to take full advantage of Caitlyn, you'll make the early game for your team a piece of cake. Should the junglers heavily contest the void grabs, Caitlyn can just walk all over her lane opponents in the 2v2, especially if you are lucky enough to get a good support player. If, on the other hand, the junglers try to abuse the new bot lane gank paths to snowball the AD carry, Caitlyn has no trouble following up on her own jungler's CC with traps while herself avoiding enemy ganks with her range and the safety of her E-spell. A strong lane phase is more important than ever right now, so if you as the Caitlyn player play your cards correctly, you will have a good time. This, and the removal of mythic items, naturally has strong implications for your rune page and your build, but I will show you exactly what your ideal setups are in this video before ultimately providing real in-game examples of how to play Caitlyn in solo queue. And if you are watching videos like this, chances are that winning and climbing in solo queue is important to you, which is why I chose the League of Legends coaching company Solo Queue Solution for my sponsor. League of Legends is a difficult game, and most players who are hard stuck on their solo queue climb have no idea why they are hard stuck and what they need to do in order to start climbing again. But with Solo Queue Solution, you can get private one-on-one coaching lessons from a high elo challenger coach. This coach will help you identify your weaknesses as a player and teach you everything you need in order to start climbing again. Of course, this is a premium service, so only consider booking if you are truly dedicated to the game and play at least 15 hours of solo queue per week. However, if League of Legends is your main hobby, this coaching service will be your ticket to high elo in Season 14. All the necessary information and a link for booking is in the description, so check that out if this sounds interesting. But let's now return back to topic and talk about Caitlyn's rune choices. In Season 14, you go for Fleet Footwork, Presence of Mind, Legend Bloodline, and Coup de Grace with Absolute Focus and Gathering Storm secondary. In the past, Caitlyn's keystone choice was not really as set in stone. Lethal Tempo and First Strike also have been viable, but nowadays Fleet Footwork is just too important. As I've already said, taking advantage of Caitlyn's strong early is just vital right now, and Fleet Footwork is the best early game keystone for her. While the healing on this rune got notably nerfed, it still matters of course, but most importantly the movement speed is what allows you to dictate the lane even harder. Your natural range advantage coupled with your movement speed enables you to just walk up to your enemy whenever you please and poke them down, while also staying safe at the same time. Fleet Footwork really takes your lane phase to the next level, and you should never skip this keystone. Now of course Triumph would be a nice rune for early game skirmishes, and Overheal also would make up for Caitlyn's weak base HP, but Presence of Mind is really important in this second slot. Caitlyn gets so much value from her basic spells, and being able to cast them repeatedly during fights is absolutely crucial. You need your Q for wave clear, you need your Ws for follow-up and for safety, and you of course also need your net for safety. Running out of mana during an early game skirmish would be really devastating, and Presence of Mind prevents that from happening. Legend Bloodline is chosen over the early game powerhouse of Legend Alacrity because Caitlyn really wants flexibility in her items. Operating on 0 lifesteal throughout the game is not really viable, but Caitlyn really also doesn't want to buy lifesteal items early on. Throughout the game, Fleet Footwork and Legend Bloodline will keep you healthy enough though, and you can use your gold on more aggressive item options. Now, in this next slot, this is the big one. Yes, Coup de Grace is actually the preferred rune right now on Caitlyn. For the longest time, Cutdown was the default choice here precisely because Caitlyn is so weak in terms of her defensive stat profile. This weakness is of course meant to punish you hard for mispositioning, but Cutdown used to turn that into an advantage, increasing your damage. However, this was back in the day, and Doran's Blade has been buffed since then, so you have to go Doran's Blade first item. Cull starts are never an option right now. And in addition to that, you also no longer have the option to go for an armor shard in your runes, you instead have to pick health. All of this is an overall nerf to Cutdown, favoring Coup de Grace, and in addition to that of course, the bot lane is crazy right now during the early game, and Coup de Grace is the highest and most consistent early game power, whereas Cutdown needs to scale into the late game. Yet Caitlyn is still a good Cutdown user, don't get me wrong, and you can definitely pick it if the enemy team composition is rather tanky. Now as far as your secondary runes are concerned, there is again not really an alternative. Absolute Focus and Gathering Storm are by far the best, because you need your AD to scale with your crit in the late game. Now with that being said, let's talk about the item build, and let's first and foremost address the elephant in the room, Titanic Hydra. Titanic Hydra is not even an AD carry item, and its stat profile has very poor synergy with Caitlyn, but the real payoff is the active. Titanic Hydra's active effect enables you to reset your auto-attack timer, giving you 2 rapid auto-attacks in quick succession. This is big on Caitlyn because she can get 2 headshots for the price of 1 essentially. When Caitlyn gets her headshot ready via her passive, she can use that headshot with her next auto-attack, and the headshot buff gets consumed once that auto-attack connects. This means that you can auto-attack, and while the auto-attack is still in mid-air, you still have the headshot buff, activate Titanic Hydra, get a second auto-attack, so both of them get the headshot buff, 2 headshots in succession. However, at the end of the day, the stat profile on Titanic Hydra is still a little bit too bad. The item is overall too situational since you need to line up your headshots in order to actually get value out of this, and it's unnecessarily difficult to use correctly. If you want to climb in solo queue, it is better to just go for the crit build I will show you here. The full build is Stormrazor, Berserker's Greaves, Infinity Edge, then Rapid Fire Cannon, Lord Dominic's Regards, and Bloodthirster or maybe Guardian Angel in some matchups. Caitlyn kind of misses her old rush item Gale Force, but Stormrazor is also a very good alternative now that Gale Force is gone. Additionally, Stormrazor is also a good combo with Fleet Footwork, enabling you to kite even more efficiently, also making more use of your auto-attack range. And now there's not only Caitlyn's headshot the enemy needs to keep in mind, but also the Stormrazor proc, which further adds to your hit and run playstyle with superior range. From there you can smoothly transition into Infinity Edge, which is a key item on Caitlyn because her headshots scale with crit, and the critical strike modifier is a big deal as a result. Rapid Fire Cannon also comes quite naturally, making it even more difficult for the enemy to punish you in the mid-game because you can stay even farther away. Eventually you of course still need to buy a Last Whisper item because base armor scales so heavily with champion levels, and Lord Doms, even in matchups where healing reduction would be relevant, will be best on Caitlyn. Again, you have low base HP, and Lord Dominic's Regards Giant Slayer will therefore generate a lot of value. Bloodthirster in the last slot is your semi-defensive lifesteal item, which also provides lots of AD and crit, which is always valuable, but against very burst-heavy champions, Guardian Angel is of course much better. Okay, so this is all you need to know about Caitlyn's itemization, so let's now jump into the in-game analysis. Caitlyn has not only a very strong but also flexible lane phase. You can pick her with any support champion because she has great synergy with each of them, and into any matchup because she outranges every single AD carry in the game. With poke supports, your game plan is very simple. Your support wants to poke, so you just add with your own poke damage with your superior range and win the lane that way. If your support is an all-in champion, also very easy. Once they land and engage, you just follow up with a W trap for an easy all-in combo. Caitlyn's only weakness essentially is that she is so squishy, so once you make a mistake you will die very easily, but you're still very consistent and strong in lane due to your range and wave clear. It makes it very hard to punish Caitlyn in the first place. And there are really no unplayable matchups. Even Draven, who is the biggest bully in the bot lane, is not really a problem for Caitlyn. She still outranges him and has all the tools to keep him in check. Caitlyn will have agency no matter what. This even extends to rather unfavorable situations. Look at this one for example. Your support makes a mistake and Draven gets a kill as a result. This would be a complete disaster for most other AD carries, but Caitlyn will remain relatively unaffected in her lane. A small gold lead for the enemy like that will hardly be enough to make up for Caitlyn's superior range. You can just keep doing your thing and play with confidence. Your auto attack range plus your spells are way too strong in lane, so there's no reason to fold here. Whereas again, many other AD carries now would be staring down a hopelessly lost lane, but not Caitlyn. And as I've already said, all this early power is quite valuable in this chaotic Season 14 bot lane meta. Being long-ranged means you also play at a relatively long distance most of the time, and in addition to that you still have the jump with your net. This makes it incredibly difficult for the enemy to actually get hold of you and actually take advantage of your low defenses. Additionally, the more happens bot lane, the more likely it is you will find yourself in a situation where you can follow up on an ally's crowd control spell, and once you land a trap combo, it is very easy to get kills during the lane phase. But you must always remember this, of course. The key to actually having a good lane phase with Caitlyn is to always take advantage of your superior range. It is your most valuable asset, and incorrect kiting can be punished hard. You must play at max auto attack range always. In any case, if you follow this advice, you should not really have too much trouble converting Caitlyn's early game power into winning the lane phase, but how do you continue once lane phase is over? Many of the qualities that helped you to play Caitlyn during the early game also help you in the mid-game teamfights. However, keep in mind that it will be much easier for the enemy to take advantage of your low HP stat at this point. But this still doesn't mean you have to be overly defensive, as you will see. In this example, Caitlyn has finished Stormrazor and Berserker's Greaves. As long as you have teammates nearby who can threaten the enemy with their potential crowd control, it is very hard for them to punish your auto attacks. As we can see, Rammus attempts to flank here, but he is nowhere even close to reaching Caitlyn, not only because of the threat of crowd control, but also because your teammates of course body block in some cases. And as you can see, even without direct setup, it is important to keep placing traps between auto attacks. You don't lose DPS actually, while in fact creating valuable safety zones the enemies must respect. If they don't, if they accidentally step into a trap, they will take lots of damage as a result. But the importance of team support cannot be stressed enough here. Caitlyn in the mid-game is extremely vulnerable when wandering about by herself, and unless you get lucky, you will start feeding kills for this. However, as vulnerable as Caitlyn might be when she is alone, her enemies suffer the same fate. Especially isolated targets after a fight are easily picked off with your ultimate, which, to be honest, is not all that useful in most other situations. Never use this spell during actual fights where you instead must keep auto-attacking and reposition to stay out of danger, but if you find an isolated low health target, it is an ideal situation of course. Yes, you might kill steal sometimes, but a kill on the AD carry is always good. However, while most other champions are defined by their ult, it is arguably Caitlyn's worst tool when compared to her other qualities. Your Infinity Edge auto attacks are a far more reliable damage source, and the utility from your W traps is also quite excellent. And of course, you will get a lot of mileage from your E's added safety. Caitlyn is a champion with notoriously strong basic tools, not needing to play around her ult cooldown. The more you play Caitlyn, the more this will become second nature to you, but it's always good to remind yourself of what the tools are that actually do the heavy lifting. As you can see, it is all about enabling Caitlyn's auto attacks. Your spells keep you safe and allow you to do exactly that. Every single bullet that ends up connecting will deal a lot of damage to the enemy, which is ultimately what wins the fight in the first place. You have to clean the team fight first, before you can even think about using your ultimate. And even then, it is essentially just the cherry on top, because if Thresh lives here or not, it doesn't really change the outcome. You still push the tower and make progress. However, keep in mind that none of this will matter in practice if you fail to take advantage of Caitlyn's lane phase. But if you need more tips on how to dominate the bot lane, you can watch my full AD carry lane phase guide by clicking the link on your screen.